Nice guys are allergic to pissing people off. Here's why that's an issue and what you can do about it. But first, hey there, legend. I'm Mike Campbell, the anti nice guy men's coach. I'm the founder of the Everyday Legends Academy, and I support nice guys in building self worth, self respect, and a deep sense of security so that you can kill your nice guy, bury that shit for good, and get so much more from your life, from love and the everyday. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to handle disappointment of others, how to actually piss people off the right way. And before we do that, be sure to hit that notification bell so you can stay updated whenever we drop brand new content. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and follow along so you gain access to all our exclusive videos and offers and help us get these videos in front of more nice guys. All right, into today's video. Let me introduce you to the question so many nice guys get wrong. Should I be a nice guy or an asshole? That feels like a no-brainer. Of course I'll be a nice guy. And the reason we answer that incorrectly, even though that might sound like the right answer, is because it is the wrong question to ask. I've talked about the kind of black or white, all or nothing thinking in these videos and my content before. And we guys, we are shockers for it, right? If it's not one thing, then it must be the opposite. If it's not yes, it's no. Sometimes it's both and some other alternative in between. But we crave certainty. We want a detail that we can focus on and get to work on and then fix and do and create and achieve. The masculine is hardwired to apply ourselves to a detail and achieve a result, from hunting to protecting to parenting and any number of tasks in between, from fixing a light bulb to cooking a meal. It doesn't matter what it is. Apply ourselves to achieve a result. It's a very masculine thing. Now, that's not everyone, of course, but it's fairly hardwired in men predominantly. But we balls it up now by applying it to almost everything, even when it's glaringly inappropriate or it's not working for us, right? So health, fitness, and diet. I'm all or nothing, man. That's not going to work, right? Work-life balance. Same thing. Drinking alcohol. I'm either shit-faced or I'm sober. Struggle for that middle ground, right? What about this one for nice guys? Giving a crap about what other people think of you. Either obsessive, I'm always doing it, or I'm striving for hashtag zero fucks given, as punishing people would try and achieve these days. We mess up what are generally very nuanced things. But the nuance needs us to play in the gray space. But when you've spent a lifetime in the black or white, in the all or nothing, the gray feels daunting, right? It is the unknown. And this is a cheesy line, but I fucking love it and I believe it. When we can learn to live and play in the gray, life has so much more color. And it couldn't be truer for nice guys who, as a rule, tend to outsource their sense of security and safety in the world to others. That means chasing, needing, and surviving off the approval and validation from others and from the external world, things like status and money, as well as the approval and validation of others. And so the kind of thinking is, if I don't have that, well, then I have no worth. So I need to chase and more and gather and achieve and chase and more and gather and achieve to have some sense of worth. The nice guy thinks if he isn't in his head about what other people think of him, he needs to not care at all what anyone thinks of him. This is basically wanting you to be inhuman or a sociopath, right? Indifference and apathy are not the answer to obsessing over what people think of you. Of course, we need to think about and care about what some people think of us some of the time. But discerning when and who and why, that's the gray space. That's where the color of life comes in. My wife's opinion matters a lot to me, more than most other people in the world, but not all the time. Sometimes something might go on and it's not about me, it's her shit. But that is asking me to play in the uncertainty. And here is something that I know to be true, having worked with thousands of nice guys. Where uncertainty exists, the nice guy resists. He will avoid it. He will move away from it. Ultimately, it's because he tends to have a deep sense of uncertainty within himself. And so he chases certainty from the world, such as belonging, fundamentally. It might be money, it might be status, it might be approval and validation, but it all comes down to belonging, knowing that he is liked and safe and secure in the world, searching for assurance and reassurance from the world around him that I am okay. And this way of being is reinforced each time a nice guy contemplates the alternative, right? He asks this poorly thought out black or white question. If I'm not being a nice guy, well, the alternative is I have to be an asshole, right? So we've gone and all of a sudden just inflated the idea of something different to saying yes to everything and appeasing and people pleasing, avoiding conflict, to being an asshole, right? And that is often put into one word, saying no. If I say no, I'm being an asshole. If I ask for what I want and state what I want, I'm being an asshole. It leaves no room for anything different. And it just continues to paint himself into a corner. And that corner is, if being an asshole is my only option, then I best to remain a nice guy, right? It justifies staying there, that kind of cozy sounding justification. I don't have to change. I don't have to change. It lacks nuance, it lacks courage, and it lacks kind of any kind of mature thought, really. Nice guy and asshole are two opposing ends on a very, very long spectrum. However, when the nice guy believes this is that kind of one or the other, he doesn't have to take any courageous action. He can just sit there and hide behind the nice guy thinks, well, the alternative is being an asshole. No, no, that is such a narrow view to the looking at what is a different option. At some point, you have to squash this kind of asshole idea that doing something different to being an absolute pushover, having no boundaries, not honoring myself, having no self-respect, chasing validation and approval from the external world to feel a semblance of okay within myself is being an asshole. You must explore the nuance. So let me say a few examples in clear English. Setting a boundary, not an asshole. Saying no to something that you don't want to or can't do, not an asshole. Asking for what you want, not an asshole. Being honest with someone, not an asshole. And we'll touch on that one in a second. How about this one? Honoring your needs, looking after yourself, initiating an uncomfortable conversation, communicating something upsetting, letting someone have their own emotional experience without trying to manage it for them or take away their pain and discomfort. Not an asshole. Now, I could go on and I could go on and I could go on. That is a small list of things nice guys will avoid for the fear of being seen as an asshole. And there's some pretty important language there, seen as an asshole. Because as we know, conditional kindness, being nice in order to be liked, trying to manage people's perceptions of you so that they like you or don't dislike you is not nice. That is selfish. That is self-centered. That is not nice. And we know, unless you're new here, as we said, conditional niceness, subtle forms of manipulation are not nice. They serve your insecurity, not the person you're being nice to. And that is really the definition of it at the end of the day. However, in contrast to that, looking after yourself, honoring your needs, your wants, your energy, your time, they are based in self-respect. But it is not a zero-sum game. It is not black or white. If I am honoring my needs, my time, my energy, I cannot be nice. I cannot be kind. I cannot also show up for others. Absolutely, you can. Those things can coexist. And this is what so many nice guys struggle to choose and embody self respect. When you continue to believe that the only alternative to being a nice guy is to be an asshole, you continue to deceive yourself and others. You continue to believe this is the only path. I have to do this because the alternative feels too unapproachable, too inaccessible, too inappropriate. But you've just created a story around that to keep justifying why you don't have to change and be courageous. And the painful irony for so many nice guys is that they often let things slide, right? They sweep issues under the rug. They accommodate and absorb for others. They overload themselves and they do their best to maintain a calm exterior until often some kind of explosion, right? The straw that breaks the camel's back, an overreaction happens. Some kind of asshole behavior, inappropriate behavior just blurts out. The thing that they fear so much blurts out, right? I'm calm, I'm calm. No, don't worry about me. Accommodate, accommodate, accommodate. Explosion. Overreaction. right? Like the nice guy who finally tells people to get fucked, furious at them for bumping up against his weak and non-existent boundaries, getting pissed off at others for asking them to do things, hoping that they just don't ask because he can't say no. Of course, you can say no. Your boundaries, your responsibility. How dare someone ask me something and then make me communicate and enforce a boundary of mine, right? And so what happens is he fires his internal disappointment at them. Now, the answer here is courage and self respect. There's a willingness to let other people be annoyed at you, disappointed in you, pissed off even, without intentionally setting out to do so. So I'm going to repeat that piece because at the top of this, I spoke about pissing people off in the right way. Willingness for people to be pissed off at you without intentionally setting out to piss them off. Willingness to have people annoyed at you, upset at you, disappointed in you without intending to do that. There's such a vital difference here. A willingness to disappoint others versus intending to disappointment. This is such a huge wrestle for the nice guy. A intention is being an asshole. Now, if I say something to you, and I'm going to give you 4 key communication tools in a moment that will help with this. What you do with that thing, I cannot control. If I intentionally try to piss you off, that's a bit of an asshole behavior. But if I am honoring myself and you get pissed off, that's yours. But the wrestle for the nice guy is very real. I have been there myself. I have seen it in hundreds and hundreds of men. He is so uncomfortable with people disliking him, being annoyed, disappointed, pissed off at him, and having some kind of negative emotional experience that could be attributed to him, that he will abandon himself, disappoint himself time and time again, just to avoid that kind of negative or less than ideal response in the other person. There are so many consequences here, so many, often in the short term, right? And this is the problem because the nice guy seeing the short term going, it's easier in the short term to do this, right? The long term consequence is an eroded fucking soul, a weak spirit, a frustrated individual. But there are other short term consequences as well because people who can see the bullshit. They see you sacrifice yourself. They see you dishonor your needs and your wants and your boundaries. And we teach people how to treat us. And so the more you tell people, hey, by the way, I don't really respect myself, you teach people that's not really a man to respect. It's very hard to respect a man who cannot respect himself. So let's learn how to do this with grace, with skill, and with some kahunas. 4 key communicating tools that you need to communicate with courage. Now, as I said before, you are not responsible for how someone feels or what they choose to do with your words. You are not responsible for how someone feels or what they choose to do with your words. Now, that is not a black or white statement, and we're going to give it a little bit of color. We're going to play in the gray because you are responsible for how you communicate and how you act. One of the alternatives here is the person that says, I'm just honest. I just call it how it is. I just say what I mean. And what they're also saying there is, I do not care about other people's feelings at all. And I'm washing my hands of that. That is asshole other end of the spectrum. We are talking about not being on this end of the spectrum where I am obsessed with, always thinking about, always accommodating other people's feelings. There's a nuance here. I'm not responsible for how you feel and what you do with my words, but I definitely am responsible for how I communicate and how I act. And that's what I can look at and address and be considerate of. As long as you can communicate with the following 4 things, you can start to put down responsibility for the other person's reaction and start to pick up your self-respect, your integrity, your backbone. Start letting people think and feel what they like, especially about you. If people don't want to like you, be okay with that. It might sting, but you can handle that. You can handle people not liking you, disliking you, thinking whatever they want about you, judging you, rejecting you. You can handle that as long as you can respect yourself. That is what matters more than anything. So, have you got a pen? Because the 4 keys for communicating challenging things: respect, honesty, kindness, and compassion. If you reflect when you are communicating that you've communicated in this way, with honesty, respect, with kindness and compassion, you can start to feel safe that I've done my part. This is where I end and someone else begins. That's what a boundary is fundamentally. I can feel safe, right? I've done my part, and now it's up to the other person how they interpret it, what they do with it, the meaning that they attach to it, and how they feel. I cannot manage or manipulate or try to change or take away their feelings and their pain and their discomfort. I can show up and communicate with honesty, respect, kindness, and compassion. Now, let's be clear. That is towards the other person, but it is also towards yourself. If I need to communicate something with respect, I often have to think about, is this respectful of myself? Am I avoiding this? That might feel respectful and kind to them, but is it kind to myself? Probably not, because that is an MO for a lot of nice guys historically. I'm not going to communicate something important because that might be, they might be hurt. That might be mean. I don't want to hurt them. So I'm going to absorb the hurt. I'm going to absorb all of that. That is not compassionate towards yourself. That is not kind. That is some bullshit disrespect towards yourself. That is not part of it. So remind yourself, once I communicate with those things, what they do with it, that is not mine. I have to let them have that, whatever their experience is, and be okay with how they view me or how they feel towards me. It is not mine once I've communicated it. I can talk to them about it. I can open a dialogue. If you want to talk about this, what have you heard me say? I can clarify any of this if you want. You don't have to. But if you want to, if it's a stepping stone, if it's the training wheels for you, go for it. But here's the thing, gentlemen, develop the ability and willingness to piss people off, to sit in the discomfort of someone being annoyed at you, being pissed off at you, being disappointed in you, without the intention to go about and do that. Now, if this is in a relationship, let's be very clear on this, and we can probably do a whole nother video on this. If you cannot handle your partner's disappointment, if you can't be okay in the presence of her being annoyed at you, you will always be responsible for a lack of safety in the relationship because you'll be constantly working to manage her state at the detriment of your own and your integrity. And that weakens you and it weakens the relationship. Let her be okay in her discomfort without trying to take it away. Let her see you be grounded and solid and present for her. You can be there to support her, but not try and manage her own experience. That'd be some bullshit. And if you haven't spoken to your partner about this, speak to them about it. You need to be able to piss your partner off without intentionally pissing her off. You need to be able to talk to her about this. You know what? For a long time, I've dishonored my own word and tried not to disappoint you or upset you. And I realize that hasn't worked because I absorb all of it. You probably get pissed off at me in another way, more meaningfully later on. So I'm going to work on being honest, saying what perhaps needs to be said, even though it might piss you off. Remember, it might piss her off, but she'll respect you for it. My fear is if I say things like that, you'll get pissed off at me and I won't be able to handle that. But I'm choosing to stop trying to manage your experience and feelings. I might go over the line. I might bump up against and go over the edge in my experiment around this. I ask for some grace. I ask for a safe word so that we can explore this together as a partnership, as opposed to going into adversarial mode where one of us is wrong, I'm trying to wriggle out of getting wrong and all that shit. You have that conversation. You need to be able to piss your partner off. That does not mean intentionally pissing her off. It means being willing to stand for something, even if it does piss her off, with kindness, with compassion, with respect and honesty. Be willing to maintain your integrity, act from self-respect, even at the risk of her being disappointed or pissed off or annoyed at you in the short term. Because if you can act from that place, it will provide a sense of safety, something to respect and depend on in the longer term. That is infinitely more valuable in the relationship. Here is a man who can stand up to me so he can stand up for me. A man who I can depend on because he has a backbone and will not cave with the slightest bit of pressure from the outside world or from me. Gentlemen, this has been a video on how you can learn to piss people off appropriately, skillfully, courageously, compassionately. I've been Mike Campbell. Remember, gentlemen, become unfuckwithable. Until next time.